Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea. Welcome to the show. This is episode 47, and we're live everywhere. But be sure you check out WLTK-DB.com. That's the station. Lots of great content each week out there, you guys. So be sure to check out the other shows. There's stuff throughout the week, a lot of great content. If you're into thinking about things and opening your mind, this is a great station to make a regular listen to. So definitely check out WLTK-DB.com and check out all the shows. Check out the station shop. You can get all kinds of cool merch stuff. Get your stocking stuffers and show shirts and show your love for the station and pass out some cool Christmas gifts while you're killing two birds with one stone here. But thanks for joining me. Got a special guest tonight. He's actually the producer of the show, Mr. Michael Beers. We'll be bringing him on in just a minute. And so I'm super excited to talk to him. We always talk about I think we get kind of deep, but he's had a lot of great experiences. And so I'm looking forward to sharing those with all you out there. And if you're watching YouTube or on Twitter or Facebook or Twitch or wherever you're watching from, feel free to drop a comment, say hello. And throughout the show, if you have any questions, we'll do our best to get to every comment and question. It's always fun to get you guys involved too. And so we'll be looking for that. So drop a comment, let us know you're watching. And we'll go from there. Gosh, I can't believe holiday season's in full swing. And I just want to take a moment to wish everyone a happy holidays and whatever you're celebrating. Hope it's fun and safe and you create some great memories. I will be off next week. We did have Ginger Lockwood scheduled for next week, but we've rescheduled her for January 18th. So be looking for that coming up in the new year. But next week, I'm starting my holiday break early. So, but the station will not be. Hi, Linda. Thanks for watching. Linda's been a guest on the show, big friend and supporter of the show. So thank you very much. But the station will not be doing any live shows December 20th through January 3rd. So we'll be back January 4th, and that'll be a Tuesday. So we're kicking back off on January 3rd. Sorry. Kicking back off on January 3rd. So there won't be any live shows, but if you've been missing shows and you want to catch up, holidays are a great time for that. There's a lot of episodes out there. This is episode 47 for me. So if you've missed a lot of episodes, go to WLTK-DB.com. You can get all the audio on demand there. And pretty much anywhere you get your favorite podcast from, you can find us. Just look up WLTK-DB and you'll find us there. So, well, without further ado, I'd like to bring in the special guest tonight. Met Michael years ago at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference, and the kind of introduction that left me feeling like I've known the guy for a long time. And I hope the feeling's the same as well on his end. But he's been researching cryptids, Bigfoot, UFO, the spirit phenomenon, everything for over 40 years. So I've got a wealth of knowledge and experiences. And so let's bring on my good friend and also the producer of this show, Mr. Michael Beers. Hey, Mike.
Hey everyone, how you doing? Hey Pete, glad to be here.
Great to have you here, man. Thanks for taking the time to actually be on the front side of the camera.
Yes, I like the other side.
Yeah. Mike usually prefers to be doing all the production. So thanks for taking time to be on the other side of it there.
Oh, you're welcome.
And oh, hey, Kathleen. Thanks for watching. She's also a big supporter of this show. She's a big supporter of Mike.
That she is.
Thanks for watching, Kathleen, and for the support. And hey, Michael White says, yay, Michael. And Pete, too, of course. Well, thanks, Mr.
Hey,
White.
Mike. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. And so, Mike, I feel like we could talk for probably 10 hours on here, but this is
That'd
an
be
hour-long
great.
show.
We never get a chance to do that, though.
I know.
always so
maybe one
busy.
day we'll maybe one day we'll do like, we'll call it an epic show or something. And
Right.
it'll
Or we can just go camping and then we could talk about it later.
oh, there you go.
Get together, sit around a campfire and talk for a
Yes.
few days.
Oh, that'd be great. So, well, let's get right into it here. So I mean, you've been researching kind of across the whole paranormal field for 40 years. I'm curious myself. What how'd you get into it? Did you just kind of stumble
Uh,
across some books, or was it an experience? How'd you get into it?
well, uh, I wound up seeing the Patterson Gimlin film.
Okay.
Of course, like everybody else, you see that it makes you wonder.
Right.
It looked real. I had to do a report, and so I'd already done one on sharks and a few other things. So I decided to do one on this film, and so that kind of piqued my interest. I used to look at fate magazines, things
Okay.
like that. They covered some stories in there. Um, so that kind of got me interested, but not too much on the serious side of things. Just in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, as a teenager, my late teens, I had already been a hunter for years, and I was fishing on the Cowlitz River here in Washington.
Okay.
Uh, my younger cousin was with me, and we were close to a fish hatchery. And I got this overwhelming sense that something was looking at us or watching us, something
Okay.
creeping around the brush. I looked that way, didn't see much, just alder trees and really nothing moving. Felt it again. That time, looking back in the brush, I noticed something. I noticed something moving down low.
Okay.
So I that was between myself and my cousin. So um, being low, I did low to the ground. I wasn't too concerned about it. Couldn't really hear each other talk over the noise of the river. So I cast back out and started to reel in, and the hair just stood up on the back of my neck. So at that point, I'm reeling in, and I look towards my cousin, and he's looking towards me and nods towards the bank, the cliff. I nodded, I reeled in, and we took off. We got to the footbridge and started heading back towards camp. And at that point, I started noticing something moving through the brush that was much taller. When we
Okay.
got to the footbridge and got across it, I could see something way taller moving through the
Okay.
brush. What appeared to be what like if a bear was standing on its back legs just walking, look kind of looking through the brush shadows.
Right.
But the way it was moving didn't make sense in my head to all the times that I had seen bears prior to that walking on their hind legs. So
Okay.
I yell out to my cousin, whatever it is, it's big and it's behind us. Keep moving. If something gets me, don't stop. Just keep running.
Okay.
So we're hoofing it down this trail, and this is like broad daylight, and it's a very wide trail. It's a service trail,
Okay.
so a vehicle could drive down it. So we're going around this bend, and I look over my shoulder, and there is a bipedal, hairy creature that's very tall, and a male. I could clearly see that
Okay.
cutting diagonal across the trail. I said it's right behind us, and it's big. And my cousin found another deer and took off. Well, we got closer to camp, and this feeling came over me that we were no longer in danger. There was no more fear.
Okay.
So I told him, "Hold up, hold up." I was like, "You know what we just saw?" And he said, "I don't want to talk about it." And he's been freaked out ever since,
Oh, wow.
and doesn't want to talk about it. Doesn't want to hear the word Bigfoot when we're out in the woods. He doesn't want to know.
Yeah.
It traumatized him. It made me interested. So I did some research, there wasn't a whole lot out then. You had Pedersen Gimlin stuff. You had just a little bit here and there in magazines.
And you
Like,
had Boggy Creek.
yeah,
Was that out?
yeah.
Yeah.
There just wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't have the internet, so obviously it's whatever you could find in a magazine, a tabloid situation, or in a library.
Right.
So not a lot to go from. So I just kind of let it go. Outside of that, family members would make fun of me, and I'd be the center of laughter. If we're sitting around a campfire, my grandfather would say, "Tell them your Bigfoot story," and laugh at me. So I finally just shut up about it.
Yeah.
So that's what really got me interested. And at that point, I kind of went underground, so I didn't get made fun of.
Right.
And then in 2012, had another incident that happened that led me to the BFRO, and that led to me being an investigator for them, meeting Kathleen, and a lot of really amazing people, some lifelong friends. So
Yeah.
that's what kind of got me into the Bigfoot stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Outside of that, other cryptids, I've seen some really weird things that were one-off things. It's like nothing matches in my Rolodex in my brain. Part of it matches this and part of it
Right.
matches that. So,
Yeah.
but nothing as a whole. And um, like one time I saw something getting out of the river. It wasn't a nutria, it wasn't a beaver. I had been a trapper and a hunter. I know all the critters. And it was nothing like that. It was much bigger than a nutria, and it walked weird. Uh, we were inner tubing, and at that point I got out and I tried to find it. It went off in the brush, so I tracked it for quite a while. And it was the oddest thing. It looked like it was made up of just spare parts. It just looked
A
weird.
Frankensteiner. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
It looked very odd. Never seen anything since. I've never seen any photos or illustrations from anybody out there that look like this thing.
Hmm.
Again, my cousin was with me. Doesn't want to talk about it.
I bet he doesn't go out in the woods with you much.
He lives out in the woods in a remote area, but he doesn't, outside of his boundaries, he doesn't want to know.
Oh man, Michael White's got a great question here. What would you suppose would have happened on your first encounter had you stood your ground instead of running to the service road?
Good question. I can only assume, based on my encounters after that one, that um, it would have been something I should have done, because all of the rest of my encounters, I was not injured. I was not. They were not aggressive in any way. They're just sort of checking me out while I'm checking them out.
Right.
So I believe that there would have. I wish I would have, because my my research and experiences from that point on would have been much more enriched,
Right.
because I would have had a different opinion out of the get go. Right? Because they're portrayed as beasts, monsters, vicious, tear you apart, use your bones
Right.
for toothpicks kind of thing. Not my experience. And I've been within 10 feet. So not my experience at all. I wish I would have. I wish I would
Yeah.
have stood my ground and introduced myself like I do now.
Right. But hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, plus I had my cousin with me, and he was really frightened, and my priority was to protect him.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so
during when you realized there was something taller in the off to the side in the brush. I mean,
that was
did
the
you experience
adrenaline
an
kicking in.
adrenaline? Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
When I realized that it was that tall and it wasn't moving like a bear, and I didn't know what it was at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, put yourself in my shoes. You've already been a hunter. You can identify most animals from just mere parts in a brush. You
Yeah.
know, to see something like this moving as fluidly, as smoothly as it was, um, you know what I remember most of all about looking over my shoulder is the sheer size of its hands. The left hand that was on my side was just massive.
Would
Like
have made a
the
basketball
part
look
of
like
my
a baseball.
chest. Like if you were to hold it up to my chest, it would pretty much take up my chest.
Jeez, how tall do you think that one was?
Um, Probably pushing 9 feet.
Okay, so quite a bit
It was
larger.
very robust male. Not cut like muscular, sort of rounded.
Yeah,
Mature, older
it's
one.
probably a dad then.
Yeah, yeah. And who knows? And then when I reported the incident that happened in 2012
Hmm.
to the BFRO, the investigator that took my report had said he had just done a report a few days prior to that in the same location, where
Wow, same location.
two different drift boats, unrelated, both saw one on the shoreline flipping over rocks when they were coming around the bend of the river.
Crazy. Okay, well that gives, I mean, did that kind of validated what you were reporting then?
It did, and then
Yeah.
he said that about a previous month or two prior to that, he did a report less than a mile from that location as well, where um, campers that had been there thought somebody was trying to break in to somebody else's vehicle, and it was actually when they went out and hit it with a flashlight, it was a beast looking in the back of the vehicle.
Ugh,
They described it as a beast,
yeah.
uh,
Oh man.
not a human.
Yeah, I think in the dark I would broad daylight I would be kind of freaked out probably in that situation, but at night, um well, I don't know how I would handle
It,
it.
it does do something to you, I tell you.
Oh yeah, I bet. Well,
I've been there.
tell us a little bit about in 2012 this or well your Blues Mountain
Oh, okay.
encounter. Let's talk about that, and we'll get
That's
started
a
on it.
good
Then
one.
we're going to take a quick station break, and then we'll continue on with it. But give us a little bit of the background,
Okay,
where it
so
was. You know,
we set up an outing. We handpicked some people to go with us, and this is down in the southeastern corner of Washington. So in the Blue Mountains that are in Washington, and then they run down into Oregon.
right?
If any Bigfooters out there listening are familiar with Paul Freeman, um, his his trackway and his filming and stuff was just a little further south than where my encounter happened.
Okay,
So just a few minutes down towards the south. So,
okay,
but the same range. So anyway, we had an outing planned, and then I also had to go to Pierce, Idaho, to scout for the first BFRO Idaho expedition ever.
okay,
So I had to go find a location. So anyway, so all this was going on, and we had several people there. So there were several witnesses, and each group had their own stuff going that night.
okay.
Um,
Like recorders and
well, they had recorders and stuff going, but they had their own activity going.
oh,
Amongst a
okay,
large group, we had broke up into smaller groups. Kathleen and I were sort of in this saddle, and then off to the right, there was a nice slope that went up from there to timber, and on the left, it did the same thing, but then sort of went down into this bowl.
okay,
So, and then behind us, up over the ridge, was the road.
okay.
So it was this was a full moon, clear night. Didn't need a flashlight. You could see all the textures of the lichen and stuff on the rocks. You could see
Nice.
muted colors, and things just started happening. We need to do a break. We need
Yeah. Well, yeah.
let's
The
let's
great,
do it.
great time for a break, and then
Let's
let's
do it.
talk about some of the stuff that started
Yeah, it's
happening and
pretty interesting.
what you guys experienced. Cool. So we'll be right back here on the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea, with special guest Mike Beers, and we are on WLTK-DB. We'll be right back after a quick station break. Hang on.
Looking to launch your new masterpiece? Then try something new with Moonbow Publishing and Production. At Moonbow, we have a strong desire to serve authors in a powerful and meaningful way. After all, you poured your heart and soul into your writing, and we fully understand and respect that. Remember this: you will own the copyright to your work. You will have the final say on your work before being published. Even after all of that, we've saved the best for last. We won't take a percentage sold. Nope, not a penny. Excited about MoonbowPublications.com yet? We thought so. Take advantage of our company's services like book editing, formatting, and covers, publishing, and photography. Moonbow Publishing and Productions has everything you are looking for in a company. Remember, we will not keep any commissions. We are a boutique publishing company focusing on spiritual, health and wellness, and personal growth genres. Moonbow Publications and Productions, a new kind of publishing company.
Whoops, hit the wrong button. We're back on the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea, and thanks for joining us for episode 47. And we're here, December 7th, and I would be remiss if I didn't say I did remember Pearl Harbor today.
Good deal.
And what a day that was. A day that will live in infamy, as FDR said. But thanks to all the service members out there, and all those who fought and died for us and still continue to fight for us. So thanks to everybody out there. But certainly a day to never be forgotten. So before the break, we were talking with Michael here about a pretty crazy encounter, and we're just kind of getting into they've each camp kind of, that sounded like people had different activity going on. What was happening around where you were?
Okay, well, there was a group off to my right, and there was a group off to my left. Like I said, Kathleen and I were sort of in the saddle.
Right.
And we could hear, we were doing everything wrong that night, meaning that we were yelling back and forth to each other instead of being on the radios. We were just doing things we don't normally do.
Okay.
Sometimes that works,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's exactly what needs to happen.
Right.
But the group off to my left started having activity, and they were saying, hey, something's knocking over here. And what they had going was they were they're mimicking the knock that they were hearing. So it was like 3 knocks, they would do 3, and it would do 2, they would do 2. And so this was going back and forth. Off to my right, there was activity. I couldn't quite make out what was going on, but they were also having something happen. Well, at some point down below us, I saw some movement, and I heard movement. And so I also saw something that looked like a light or something down in there,
Okay.
just inside the tree line. It all kind of got quiet out in front of us, and then I heard bark come off of a tree. So the bark that separates,
Yeah.
if a log's laying, it takes quite a bit, something heavy to step on it to make to make the bark slip.
Or
But
to
when
just
it's
peel it off. Yeah.
yeah,
Or to just
but
peel
when
it
it's
off.
just
Yeah.
sitting there, it barely takes any movement or just the wind or whatever time actually just allows it to cut loose. So I know the sound. So I said, hey, I told Kathleen, I said, something knocked bark off a tree down there. Do you mind if I go check it out? She said, no, that's fine. Now, Kathleen's only got one good ear. I mean, there's nothing inside the other one. She had to have a surgery. So when there's all kinds of yelling going on or talking, and there's Bigfoot vocalizations happening and stuff, it's all got to come into one side, and it's very hard for her to figure out. So all this was going on. You have a group over here. You have something going on in front of us. I'm now down in that area, and I walked down to where 2 windfalls that had almost come to a 90. So I was in the corner.
Okay.
There was 2 full-length burned out trees to my right, and one that was busted off quite a ways up there.
Okay.
And from a previous fire. So I picked up a little twig and I was just tapping. I wasn't hitting hard. I don't knock on trees anymore. I was just tapping lightly and I introduced myself. And then I asked if anybody was out there. I got no response. I tried this for a while, introduced myself again, and said, "Well, if nobody wants to talk to me, I'm going to head back up the hill." And that busted off, burned out tree walked right at me. It wasn't a tree in the shadow.
Oh my
It,
gosh.
it was a big male, and I
Oh,
was within 10 feet of him. So it
and
startled me at first.
what happened?
He stepped out into the moonlight. And it wasn't a, there was only two trees there, not
Not
three.
three.
So, so he stepped out in the moonlight, which put him right next to me on the other side of the log. So I was within 10 feet, I'd say probably 6 feet from him face to face. Then he turned. I took a couple steps back and I tripped and fell. So I got back up and he took another couple steps and I said, "Hey, don't leave." He looked at me. When he turned, I could really see his ear and where the placement and the size and all that. And as an artist, that's something I've always just guessed on because the ones I've seen, I haven't really got a good look. So the ear's not much bigger than ours. It sits in a little bit different location and a little lower.
Okay.
Um, I could see his eyes looking me up and down. And when I would speak, his eyes would go to my mouth. He continued to walk, and he walked down over this little knoll. And I yelled out to the people on the left, "I've got one over here, and I'm looking at it." So they came running over. One of them was a scientist. He studied the wobble of, I think it was a wobble of planets or stars, whatever, when they go around. So
Okay.
anyway, earlier that night, he was laughing at us, telling us that we are all group hallucinating, that we're all crazy.
Right.
So he came over, and another guy he was with came over to my location. And they said, "Where is it?" And I pointed, and I said, "He just stepped backwards into the shadows. He's right there." And it took a minute and threw something out. So they saw it. So at this point, the scientist guy that was laughing is now going, "Oh my God, they're real. Oh my God, they're real." He just kept saying over and over, "Oh my God, they're real." So I asked what they had going over there, where they were at. They explained what was going on. I asked if you wanted to trade, so they said sure. So I went to their location and I did what they were doing. That went for a little bit. Then I came back over to my spot. I asked what was going on, and they said the dynamics had changed, that it's now throwing stuff at them. So while while I'm standing there, here comes a stick flying at him.
Yeah.
So the one guy says, "I don't think it wants us over here. We're going to go back." So they left. It quit throwing things
Okay.
and stepped out again. So at that point, I was standing there talking to him, and I was trying to coax him out of the tree line, out in the opening. So I slowly walked as I was talking to him out of the tree line, slightly up the hill, and I sat down on a rock. There was a flat rock next to me, and I started brushing it off, going, "Will you come sit with me?
Oh
I
my
cleaned a
God.
spot off for you." He sits in the dirt all the time, but here
Yeah.
I am going, "I cleaned a spot off for you."
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get it to come sit with me,
Okay.
and it comes to the tree line, but won't come out all the way. But he's standing. There's no trees where he's standing. He's standing in an opening, but won't come out to where I'm at.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't even looked to see if Kathleen's still there, but she had already left. She couldn't hear what was going on, and she was getting frustrated, so she took off. So I think she's up on the hill watching this whole thing. I was so excited.
Yeah.
So Anyway, so it's standing there, and all of a sudden it puts its fingertips together in front of its chest like this,
Okay.
and starts rocking back and forth. And I don't know what that means. I've never seen that before. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of things, but not that.
Yeah.
And so it pulled its hands apart, it brought them back together, and it did it again. Like it broke it off. Now, pay attention to me, and it was doing it again.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's you've heard about eye shine or eye
Yeah.
illumination?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened. All of a sudden, like you're turning a dimmer switch, its eyes start to glow somewhat. Like, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
It's a soft glow, but it's definitely self-illumination and not reflective light. Um, I don't know how that works with the sclera, if it's on the outside and it's not blasting out their vision. It's very complicated. I've seen those lights before. I've seen their eyes shine before, but I've never seen it come to be.
Right.
And it was like a dimmer switch. Like I thought I was seeing it, and then I was pretty sure I was seeing it, and then full blown lit up. And what comes out of my mouth? Wow, you've got pretty eyes.
Nice.
So that's what I said. So anyway, I worked for a while longer, trying to get him to
Yeah.
come out. And again, he was doing this. And then finally, this just interaction went on for a little while. And I broke it off. I said, if you're not going to come out and sit with me, and then I'm gonna go head up the hill. And so at that point, I stood up. I start to walk up the hill, and it just turned and walked. I looked back, but I never saw it look back.
Yeah.
And it just went off into the dark at that point. It was
Oh.
pretty profound. It. It was trying to tell me something. So
Yeah. Communicate something.
this
Well,
this
first,
means something.
well, let me ask first. What color was the eye shine?
Green, and
Green.
sometimes they look like a light green yellow, like the light sticks, the break and
Okay.
shake light sticks.
Right.
That
Right.
green. Sometimes they're sort of a red color. This was a saturated green,
Interesting.
like
And nobody was shining lights, and that's how you
no,
knew it wasn't like a
no,
reflective.
and it wasn't
You know.
reflective light. And reflective light doesn't come on like a rheostat, like a dimmer. It's
Right.
you turn,
And it's
you're in
there.
the light reflects, it comes on,
Yeah.
the reflection happens, it's gone. You turn the angle, it's gone.
Right.
These
Right.
stay illuminated no matter what angle. It's
So
really interesting.
tell
I
me
don't know much
what
about
you now that some years have gone by, has any primatologist weighed in on that, or
it. I
you know
asked all kinds of people. John Bandernagel, I asked him before he passed away. I've asked Bob Gemlin. I've asked a lot of the veterans that have been doing this longer than me. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. However, remember I said I did the first expedition in Idaho for
right.
BFRO.
Yeah.
One of my attendees had another week of vacation. He was from New Jersey.
Okay.
He asked permission to do a town hall meeting in the town of Pierce that was just outside of our area.
Okay.
Um, During that town hall meeting, he was taking reports and doing interviews and things like that. A woman told him that she witnessed a juvenile across the creek putting its fingers together and doing this. So that night, he gets a hold of me and says, Mike, I'm going to send you a report. You've got to read it tonight. Here's somebody else that saw what you saw. So there's at least one other person that witnessed this,
Yeah.
whatever that means. American Sign Language, I've been told, I don't know for sure, but this means more, or something similar to that means more. That's not what it was doing. And it wasn't doing this, it was doing
You're doing
this.
this. Yeah. With it. Oh
And
wow.
it broke it off like that and then did it again, like look, pay attention.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
God,
looking back, on something like that, I mean, that would be burned into my memory like nothing
it's
else,
I see
you
it
know.
like it just happened while I'm describing it to you.
Yeah.
It's profound.
Looking back and maybe from more of a spiritual standpoint or an energy standpoint, have you been able to kind of get a better sense, or remembering what you were feeling at the moment? Was there something else extra along with that that you were feeling, and has that helped you kind of digest what that was a little bit more? Or
Well, a couple things happened because of that. I
okay.
took an interspecies communication class. Well, I found out that I could talk to horses,
Oh.
but doesn't seem I could talk to Bigfoot.
Right.
So I
Or at least
gained
you didn't
something
or
out of
at
it.
least you didn't know you were,
Yes.
at the time.
So I was going to go back to the same location the following year. So I wanted to do, Kathleen says, hey, what about taking this class that might help you better next year?
Yeah.
So I said, hey, it's a great idea. Anything can help, right?
Right.
It couldn't hurt to learn.
Right.
So doing that, there was some psychic stuff that goes along with that, like back to back, and you guess the color card I'm holding,
Okay.
that kind of thing, which
Yeah.
I was acing all of that. Even when they just spread them out and did a gradient and flipped them over, I got the colors all correct both ways.
Oh, nice.
So, and then, so the teacher says, well, pick a horse and ask it some questions. So I picked a horse and I just sent mental questions to it and I got answers and I got more stuff than I asked. And then I turned around and told the teacher what I was told, and she said, yes, that's correct. And yes, I'm amazed, and you're very good at this. And wow, can't wait to find out what else you could do. So the horse had told me that I asked if it had a favorite pasture, and it had told me, yeah, but she doesn't let it up there anymore. And she put a fence across the center of it. And so it's not allowed to go up there anymore. Well, she cross fenced the main pasture because it kept going under the electric fence and going over and bothering the mare on the other side at the end of the pasture.
Uh-huh.
So, so yeah, so she cross fenced it to alleviate that problem, and
Yeah.
he wasn't happy about it. So he gave me all that information, and I told her, and she said, "Well, what? Ask him what the mare looks like." And so he told me, and I picked one of her horses and said, "It looks like that one with the white on it, just like that one." And she said, "Yeah, that was correct." So, so I was really excited about going back to the blues with my new tools. I could
Yeah.
talk to horses, so I'm going to be able to talk to Bigfoot for sure.
Yeah, it's exactly.
So,
Well,
but
let
anyway,
me ask.
I tried. I was trying to do the best I could to
Yeah, I mean, well,
communicate. I want to know what's going on.
yeah, because I mean, it's not like there's not like protocols for communicating with
No,
with Sasquatch. Nobody's really there's not really any documented cases, I
and I
wouldn't
don't have
think.
time to write the book.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So,
So real quick though,
super
with the
fascinating.
with the interspecies communication or animal communication, how how were you receiving the answers? Was it something like clairaudient, like where you were hearing the voice, or
No,
was it more like you just knew what was being said?
I images,
Images.
all
Okay.
images,
Okay.
numbers and images. And I had told somebody, Kathleen's cousin, we went down and I met him for the first time in Oregon, and they have a bunch of horses. I should have never said anything because their daughter had me out there all weekend asking horses questions. Hours. I'm talking to horses. So first time she says, "Really? You talk to horses? Let's go." So she takes me out to the pasture. She says, "There's two horses there," and she says, "They're like 5 feet apart. I'm standing between them, and I got my back to one of them. I'm facing one." And she says, "How old is this one?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting 7 and 8, 7 and 8. So, but I'm going to go with 7 because that's what I'm seeing the strongest. She says, yes, 7. She said, well, let's go talk to this other one, which wasn't the one behind me. And so she said, well, how old is she? And I asked, and I think she was 26 or 28, something like that. She
Yeah.
says, yeah. And she said, well, how many babies has she had? So I asked, and she tells me, which was a correct number, but also tells me that number 4, there was a problem with it. This horse is telling me this,
Yeah.
right? Showing me these images. And I said, well, I think it was, actually, I think it was like 9 or something like that. And I said, but there was something wrong with number 4. What happened to number 4? And she's like, I don't know. We need to go ask my mom. I go in and she goes, hey, Mom, what happened to her 4th baby? She said it was deformed at birth. We had to put it down right away. Her mom's like, now I'm a believer. Now I believe you could talk to him.
Oh,
That's
wow.
crazy. So
Yeah.
we went down there. Every time we went down there, that kid had me out there talking to horses all
That's,
weekend.
that's
Getting
really,
practice in, I guess.
yeah. Well, I mean, it takes practice, and you got to learn how you work and how you receive the information to make it work better.
Well, one of them, she says, tell me, it was a rescue. She says, tell me about this one. I said, what they want to know, was she abused? And I said, I asked, and I had told her that the horse said, no, she wasn't abused, but that she was never allowed to be with the other horses and she was kept cramped up for a couple of years. That's the reason they rescued her, is because she was stuck in this little corral for over 2 years and they
Yeah.
didn't let her run. So that was correct as well. So
Wow. Well, so we've got a good question, and let's get
yeah,
back to this communication and overall just uh how you approach an expedition and a sighting. So we'll read the question, then we're going to take a quick station break and come back. It's from Michael White. If you have another face-to-face encounter, would you consider trying to establish communication by using that hand sign that you witnessed? So let's talk about that on the other side of the break here. It's the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea, with special guest and producer of this show, Michael Beers. We'll be right back after this quick station break, if I can get there to the right thing. Here we go.
Meet Nicole Strickland, one of the leading San Diego paranormal researchers. Nicole offers a gentle and humble approach to working with spirit energies. Being the founder of the San Diego Paranormal Research Society, Nicole is no stranger to the unknown. Due to Nicole's vast knowledge of the paranormal, she is widely sought after for speaking engagements on topics like Children of the Paranormal, Paranormal Investigation 101 and 102, history of spiritualism, and more. Not only does Nicole research the afterlife, but also writes about it, and is the author of several books pertaining to the paranormal and its history. She has appeared on television shows like My Ghost Story, Travel Channel's Famously Afraid, Good Morning San Diego, and more. Have a conference or event coming up? Contact Nicole on her website, authornicolestrickland.com. That's authornicolestrickland.com.
All right, back on the Paranormal Pete Show. It's episode 47. I'm your host, Pete Orbea, with special guest Michael Beers. Nice mug. It's got the big fella on it. Everyone should believe in something. That's right. Well, I think you're maybe more than a believer. I think you
a
probably
little
gotten
bit,
closer
little bit.
than the vast majority of people. So we had a question before the break, and this is going to tie into talking about communication Michael White was asking, if you have another face-to-face encounter, would you consider trying to establish communication by using that hand sign that you witnessed?
I always try to establish communication, first of all. When I am up close and personal with them, the first thing I do is introduce myself, explain to them I've come a long way to see them, and I extend my hand and ask if they'll touch my hand. They can trust me. I trust them. So I always do that. However, I won't use this because I don't know what it means. I don't know if it, I have no idea in their language what that means. I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to be alarming. It's the reason I don't do calls. I don't know what it is I'm saying. I
Yeah.
don't like to call blast the things like what Ron Moorhead recorded because I don't know what it's saying. And so I just, I don't cross that boundary. Now, when I took the interspecies communication class, that was for mentally communicating with them as an attempt to open lines of communication
Right.
in a different way. But as far as audibly or visibly trying to say something to them, I just don't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah. And thanks, Michael White. I said that makes good sense.
And I don't. When I first started with the communities in 2012, I was yelling and I was banging on trees, and I had never done any of that stuff before
Yeah.
in all the years of being a part of this. But I was doing what everybody else was doing. Then I got to thinking about that. You know, what if I rolled up and started banging on the side of your house and stood out in your yard yelling at you? How would
Yeah.
you like that?
You're either going to respond with get off my lawn or
Yep.
or just not respond at all.
So I just found it to be disrespectful when you do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I do things differently. I do more of a respect approach nowadays. So
Yeah.
I
I,
just,
it's a great way
you
to
know,
go just in general. I mean, that crosses over into paranormal investigation. You know, I've kind of come to learn, at least myself, that more respectful you can be introducing yourself, you know, saying what you're up to, you know, like you've come a long
and your
way, you
intent.
know.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
setting your intent. So I mean, just in general, Bigfoot, ghosts, you know, maybe extraterrestrials, whatever. I mean, it sounds like that the more I hear people say they've kind of come to this intent and how you approach it. I mean, how important is that in the work you've done, setting your intent? And you know, is it a general thing you do, or is there specific things for, you know, if you're out trying to find Bigfoot, you know, do you approach that intent differently as if you were approaching a paranormal investigation at a haunted or maybe not haunted location? But does it change between what you're researching, or is it just kind of an overall intent? And what is that intent?
I think overall, I mean, Pete, you know me, I'm a good guy. My intentions are always good and always to help and always the best. I
Right,
also am human though, so I screw up as well. I say the wrong thing sometimes. I do the wrong thing sometimes, and hopefully I learn from that.
right.
With with you know, across the board, I think it's just a general intent of doing right and doing good while still trying to do things that you probably shouldn't be doing. You know, dabbling in their world is probably not the best thing to do. Uh, but we're curious. Humans are curious. We want to know. We strive to make sense of things we don't understand.
Yeah,
And so we're always going to search for those unknowns.
yeah,
We're always going to be interested in the lore and the legends. It's
right.
just part of it.
Yeah,
And um, you know, for me, having experiences young, um, made it so that I had an open mind throughout my whole life.
Right.
I'm one of those people that had some strange experiences going on as a kid and was told by parents, "No, you're not having that happen. That's not real. It didn't happen."
Right.
And my mother at one point started discussing the therapy stuff with me, and so talking about my experiences, paranormal experiences, landed me in therapy. So Mike shut his mouth.
Yeah.
I just shut up about it.
Yeah.
I still had things happen.
Yeah.
I just shut up about it
Just didn't talk about it.
until
Yeah.
I got older, and as an adult, it was like I'm just gonna put it out there. If you think I'm full of it, that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it out there. You do with it what you want.
Yeah.
So I also having the freedom as an adult now to do things the way you want to do them. I
Hmm.
was able to put time and energy into these fields.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of really odd spirit things happen throughout the years as well. But probably the most profound is not even Bigfoot, it's the UFO stuff. And
Yeah.
that's
Let's
just
speak.
crazy
I
wild.
want to ask you about your experience that you had, but first, what is based on your experience growing up and what you went through. What's something that you could tell a younger person, anybody that's younger out there listening to the show, and they're having some experiences? What with the way things are now, we've got the internet, you've got social media, you've got easy way to get a hold of groups and people and stuff. What piece of advice would you give to somebody that's kind of going through what you went through, but in these modern times?
Okay, first I want to send a message out to the adults. You're doing your children a great disservice when you deprogram them and reprogram to fit into society because you're squashing their abilities and the gifts that they have to maybe discover again as they're older or maybe never again. So
Right.
you're doing a great disservice when you say, "No, you didn't see that. No, you didn't talk to that person.
Right.
Grandma did not come and visit you. Stop making things up." Quite often, these children are actually having experiences, honest to goodness experiences. So, okay, so for your question, I would say look for like minded people, research what you can to compare to your experiences, and document, document, document. If you document everything and you report it, then now an agency has your report documented as well as your personal documentation. And don't let people get you down. Don't let people make you think you're crazy
Yeah.
because things happen. Most adults have things happen and they don't understand it and they just write it off to, "Wow, that was weird,"
Right.
but they don't really give it much more thought. We're so busy and we're so close-minded, most of us adults, that kids are still sponges. They're
Yeah.
they're there's still a two-way street going there too.
Yeah.
So they are still experiencing the same things that we've shut ourselves off to.
Yeah.
So I just say, look for like-minded people. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to talk about it. And again, report and document, document, document.
That's a great
Document
advice.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything from time of day to was it windy outside, your
Yep.
weather. All these things come into play.
Every
So
detail.
if
Yeah.
you start out doing this young, by the time you're in your 20s or 30s, you're going to be so well versed in how to do investigations, and you'll have your own library of things that have happened and that you've researched. So
Yeah.
something for you to look back on.
Yeah. It's great advice, and I like that you put a call out to the parents as well.
Stop doing
And
that.
Yeah. And I think overall there's been kind of a shift, I'd say.
There
Uh
has been, yes.
where
It could get
there's
better.
more people being opened, or there's more open-minded people just in general. So, I think that's a benefit. And we're gonna run a little bit long tonight because we got to hear your UFO experience.
Okay, and how much time we got left?
Uh, Whatever.
Whatever we need.
We'll go a little over.
Okay. Oh
Yeah.
man,
Oh,
there was so
Jody's
much
got
more
a
I wanted
great
to talk
comment
about.
here. Journals, sketching
Yes,
pictures.
document sketches.
Let kids
Yep.
write their experiences down.
Let them write it down their way in
Yes.
their words,
Yes.
because that's important and doesn't need to be your narrative. It needs to be theirs.
Their narrative. Exactly. Okay, UFOs, let's go.
Okay, so we all see some weird things in the sky sometimes. Things that move a little fast, things that move a little slow, things that move with angles and curves that satellites don't do.
Right.
But when you're seeing one right above you at treetop level in the daylight, it it there's no question at that point. Um, I was a teenager. My grandparents raised me. Uh, they had gone downtown to go to dinner with my aunt, and so it was just the neighbor kid and myself at my house, and I just bought a new stereo, so it was summertime. I had it cranked up, had some Phil Collins going, and we lived by Fort Lewis, so military base. So it wasn't uncommon to see all kinds of aircraft.
Right.
And so we were surrounded by a lot of trees. There was a state forest on three corners of our property, and then the other one was other properties.
Okay.
Across the road was other properties, but it had some really tall maples along the road. Big, big leaf maples, big tall.
Okay.
So I was seeing every once in a while, I was seeing a red light between those leaves. I would see just this weird little red light. And so I thought it was an aircraft far away.
Right.
And
Right.
I started walking. I got about halfway across our yard towards the gravel road, and I realized it wasn't far away. It was just small lights very close. And so then you couldn't see him, and then you could see him again. And all of a sudden, as I'm getting towards the ditch of the road, I start seeing the leading edge of this something coming out over the trees. I turn and yell at my buddy, "Shut the music off, turn that off." And he freaks out. He looks up and he starts yelling at me to come back. He's just screaming at me. And I mean, he's terror. He's just screaming. And it comes out over our road sort of at an angle. So I hop the ditch and I catch up under it, and it's like barely above the treetops. I mean, barely. And no sound, no static, no doors or windows that I could see. But it was this, what I called at the time, flat black metal. But after seeing the stealth fighters and the bombers and stuff in that material, it actually looked more like that material that they're made
Okay.
out of. So more of maybe a composite.
Yeah.
It had uh, these geometrical shapes, all symmetrical, but these shapes, and it had grooves in it with lines that went up, so it would go up around the upper part of the sphere, and so you could only see those red lights, and these were triangle areas that these lights were in, and they stepped downward into like nothing, into just dark.
Okay.
So you could see a few of the steps as it was getting smaller and smaller going in with the pattern. So you had to look just right to see the red light in it. But then between these patterns, there were these grooves. And if you look way down in those grooves and you look just right, it looked like constant electricity, but more like a plasma or something, I would say now, describing it for what I know now.
Okay.
You know the when the little things kids make in school, where they take the shampoo bottle with the shampoo in it and they turn it, and the like the pearlescence kind of moves
Yep.
around in there.
Yep.
It sort of looked like that, but it was thin, but it was moving kind of like that in there. And so again, no sound, no windows or doors or ports that I could see, no ports for landing gear I could see. It appeared to be completely spherical, and the patterns looked like it was all over the whole thing.
Okay.
So anyway, so I'm following underneath it, and I get down to where our road tees. And at that point, it started to cut the T, go this way to the right. There's a family working in their yard over here, the mom and the son over by the pump house, and the daughter and dad over by the house. And they're yelling at me, hiding, screaming at me. At this point, I notice the guy up on the hill on the tractor just jumps off his running tractor, and it just kind of goes to a stop, kind of chug, chug, chug.
Yeah.
He's hiding behind the big wheel of his tractor. And then, so it cuts across, and there's a little patch of timber, and then it's just open pasture, hundreds of acres of open pasture.
Okay.
So it cuts across the trees, and I run up, and I run down on this property, and it almost comes to a hover stop. I mean, it almost came to a complete stop behind this mobile home. And it just sat there like that for a bit. Seemed like forever, but maybe 2 minutes.
Okay.
And then started to slowly move towards the town of Rainier. Now, I lived in Yelm at the time. It's south of Tacoma.
Yeah.
And so, but during all this, I of course, time slowed down. I'm able to take in all the details of this craft and the things about, like, when it crossed the T, it was a little closer to the tops of the trees, how the trees moved, they interact with the tops of the trees moved. And so all this stuff I was taking in.
Yeah.
And it just was the most fascinating thing. Well, I immediately went to talk to the neighbors about it, and they didn't want to talk about it in the house. They're very religious people, and they told their children not to discuss what they saw with anybody, to include me. So when we wound up at school, I approached them, and that cost me because they wouldn't talk to me. Then they told that I was trying to talk to them about it, and that got back to my grandparents. Of course,
Yeah.
my grandfather, he was somebody who believed we were penal colonies brought here from outer space, and my grandmother was religious, so they were always arguing about that. So, um, anyway, so he was he was on the fence about it. My grandma just kind of laughed about it,
Yeah.
and I said, well, then, we have witnesses. The neighbors saw it too. And anyway, so it wound up being, I got a good talking to. You were told not to talk to their kids about it, so don't talk to them about it again. So it got dropped. I tried
Yeah.
to get a hold of Bud Hopkins. So he is a UFO guy. He was in Seattle at the time. I saw it on the news. Could not get through the hotline. The hotline is just busy all the time.
Yeah.
So I gave up on that. Now, I had another incident happen at that property. Well, I was asked once when I told that story, do I think I was abducted? I don't think so. Not Nobody else saw anything like that. Nobody else said they lost time or I disappeared or anything. So I don't believe so. However, I had another incident happen on that same property where I went to bed in my bed and woke up on our sofa with my back to the window with flashing lights casting my shadow on the wall. Well, that's our property and state forest behind us. There's no roads back there. There's no place to put a vehicle back there.
Yeah.
So I spin around and I look, and there is a craft out there. And as I'm taking it in and realizing what I'm seeing, there's still kind of a fog going on in my
Mhm.
head, trying to make sense of why am I on the sofa and what's going on here. Well, while I'm processing all this, the like half dome at the bottom comes out, and it's a full sphere, and it just slowly takes off into the state forest and it's gone. And then later on, I can see it way down at the end down there going through the trees. and it disappears off to my right. Meanwhile, this triangular craft with lights on the edges of the I'll call them wings. Um, it's sitting like this, but it goes like this while the sphere's off doing its thing. It goes up and it levels off again, and just kind of sits there. Pretty soon, into my line of sight, here comes this sphere, and it just goes in there just like it was magnetic or something, just boop right in. The whole thing raises up, turns at an angle, and takes off towards the town of Rainier.
What in
I
the
didn't say
world?
any. I didn't say anything to my grandfather about that.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for more trouble.
Right.
So,
Right.
so,
So,
so
wow.
that was pretty wild. But so I've had that is within the feet distance of what they consider a close encounter. But I only count the one I was walking under.
Right. Because you didn't know what happened before, or,
Don't know what
yeah,
happened. So that somebody asked me once. Well, a few people said, "Well, with that one, were you abducted because you went to sleep in your
in your
room and you
bed.
woke up
Yeah.
sitting up on the sofa?" So what happened? What happened there? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to claim anything I don't know happened. I'm not going to speculate on that.
Sure. I think
All I
that's,
know is that I saw something. I went to bed here. I woke
yeah.
up here. This is what I saw. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened in between.
Now, the first one, with the sphere that your neighbors saw, the guy on the tractor, how did that, how did you leave it? Like, how did that encounter end? Did it just kind of fly
It
off,
it
or?
continued to go out towards the town of Rainier until it had gone over the treetops far enough to where I could no longer see it. Now,
Yeah.
one of the things to note is that when it got far away from me, the bottom was the exact same profile, or the top was the exact same profile as the bottom, meaning there was no flat at the top that was not at the bottom. Everything
Right.
was symmetrical.
Yeah.
And it was, I would say, probably 60 foot across or so. It
Wow.
was pretty large. So it took up the road. It was on each side of the road. It was
Yeah.
a single lane road. So
Right.
you figure 15 to 20 feet there. And
20
then
feet. Yeah.
beyond that, so somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
uh,
I
that
don't
was
mean to,
amazing.
and I don't mean to make light of it, but
No.
heading to Rainier, maybe they like beer.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
going to get
well,
some
I have last
extraterrestrial
name's
beer.
Beers, and I used to live on Rainier with the last name Beers, and I lived there for years. And then one time I was buying something, and they needed ID. Believe it or not, I think it was a lotto ticket, and I was, gosh, in my 40s, 50s, somewhere in there. So, and they're like, Beers, and you live on Rainier Street. Well, that's cool. I never even thought about that. So
That's funny.
anyway, so but there had been many reports in that area since then,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
in and around them. And what's interesting is about 6.5 years after that, I was at a party down in Yelm, and I'm somebody who can be talking to you and carrying on a conversation with you, but also keep track of all the rest of conversations that I can hear.
Right.
So multiple conversations plus ours. I know what happened, what was said,
Right.
what was going on. I can recall all that.
Right.
So anyway, I'm having this conversation with somebody, and I hear this UFO conversation. So I'm tuning in on it while this is going on.
Right.
And it came to the point where I had to say to the person I was talking to, excuse me for a second. I went over and said, could you repeat what you just said? He said, oh yeah, I was painting my car and I had no respirator cartridges and I was getting a little loopy. So I went out to take a cigarette break
That's
and yeah,
perfect way
and
to
I
not be
looked out,
loopy.
right, right. So he says, I looked out towards the water tower, and on the other side of the water tower, there was something in the sky. I went and got my family, my parents and my sister, and they were looking at it, and it kind of went out sort of southwest of the water tower. I said, yeah, and he said, my neighbor came out, they were looking at it, and he said it was really cool. It was just this big ball. It was a UFO. And so, boom.
Okay.
So I said, well,
Yeah.
let me tell you what happened to me that day.
Yeah. Yeah, no
And
kidding.
he's like, "Wow, so do you think it was a UFO?" I said, I am 100% sure that that was an unidentified flying object. So,
Hello.
oh,
Yeah, I mean,
the person who just came on, my mail carrier,
oh, well,
Candace.
hello.
Hi. And I also want to do a shout out to Gloria if she's watching. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so
No
yeah,
worries.
it's been crazy. I've had some really cool things happen, and even in school, people used to make fun of me about. Well, I'll just tell you what they used to say. Oh, Beers is raped by an alien Sasquatch. So they used to make a lot of fun of me. But here
Kids.
it is, years later, right? And I'm still in it. And by the way, any of those guys didn't get to sit on a hillside with Bob Gimlin on the 44th anniversary of filming a Patty and
Yeah,
have conversation with them. I
yeah.
did. It was cool. Who
Nice.
who'd have thought that years later I'd be sitting there with him, just two dudes talking about everything but Bigfoot,
Yeah.
just talking about general stuff. And by the way, Bob used to work um, for Evil Knievel,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and I his cousin Polly used to babysit me. Pauline was her name, but we called her Polly. So I got to do mini picnics, fried chicken and all that stuff with Evil Knievel and his son, which was not very nice. So he was
Nice.
one of those that would yank the hair on the girls and then point at one of the other boys and say, "Oh, he did it." So
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So, but yeah. So Bob, uh, he did some wild stuff as well. So he
Yeah.
told me quite a few stories. His life uh, crossed paths with some people that I know as well
Yeah.
years ago.
Interesting.
So
Well,
pretty wild.
it's funny how you find out in places you don't expect it what a small world
It is.
it really is out
It
there.
really is.
Yeah. Oh, she says thanks, Mike. So, in all these years and these experiences, um, as time goes on and technology changes and everything, if you're working with paranormal investigators or you're working with on your own, out in looking for Bigfoot or whatever you're researching, is there a piece of equipment that you take with you that kind of goes between all of these different subjects of research? Is there a certain tool that you use? Is it yourself? A logbook? What is it that you'll take no matter what you're doing research for?
Well, I don't put game cams out and stuff like that anymore. My first year of Bigfooting in 2012 with the community, I had the thermal cameras, I had all the audio recorders, I had several
Okay.
camcorders, all that stuff out there. I was married to the equipment. I had better luck without that equipment, and I had better luck without it after I quit using it.
Okay.
So think about this. As you know from being an investigator yourself, that if you've got an audio recorder out all weekend, then you've got to review hours and hours.
Yeah.
So what if you've got five and you're out for 7 days? What if you've got five audio recorders, four camcorders, and two thermals that you have to review for a full week going 24/7?
Yeah.
You're married to the equipment. You're married to the reviews of the evidence. If there's anything good on there, that's
Right.
wonderful. But usually that's not the case.
Yeah.
So you can't fast forward. You can't skip through stuff. You've got to watch every second of it.
Yeah.
So I quit doing that. So now the only thing I'll take out there is an audio recorder. And I say, when I put it out, I'm putting out an audio recorder. If you don't want your voice on here, don't say anything near it. I will put a GoPro looking at the sky, and I let anything on the ground know this is not for them. It's pointed at the sky. So, but I would say audio recorder. And when you're
Yeah.
doing, whether it's uh, any kind of investigation, start the recorder before you start the investigation.
Right.
If you roll up on a place to do a ghost investigation, start recording in the car. If you're going out on a Bigfoot investigation or just going out to do some Bigfooting, not seriously documenting and stuff, turn it on before you get out.
Right.
Because so many times things have happened as soon as you exit the vehicle.
Yeah.
For instance, there's a case where these people on the peninsula got out, and there was 4 of them, and they got out and they heard 4 knocks as soon as they all got out. They left, they were gone a little bit, they came back with only 3 knocks. They did it again with 2, came back, 2 people got out, 2 knocks. They could have recorded that. They
Right.
didn't. It's just word of mouth,
Right.
So that could have all been recorded. So
Yeah.
find something like that. If it's a pen and paper or pencil and paper or an audio recorder, even if you're not setting it out to record events that are happening in real time, use it to dictate.
Yeah. Right. That's your notes right there. That's your description. You can, say the conditions, what's happening, what you see, what you don't see. Very quickly too.
If you have a recorder, an audio recorder that will take an external mic, set it up, put that in your pocket, clip the mic to the back of your hat. You're not going to be messing with anything. Just clip it to the back where the little adjustment thing is, and then it's out of the way of everything that touches. You're not hearing your breath so much and all that.
Yeah.
So everything that rustles around, or if you're walking through brush and stuff, it's not hitting the mic right here.
Right.
Because so
And
many
you
times I've heard recordings happen or things happen on recordings while they're moving around the mic, and it screws it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. And plus you've got, something kind of listening behind you
Yes.
as you're moving through things.
Behind you, that's another thing. So Paul Graves, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
he does something that I also do, and that's put a camera on your backpack, watching where you've been.
Right.
I got some incredible footage from him, amazing stuff that he caught with a camera facing backwards.
Yeah.
And it was pretty wild. It wasn't anything like what he thought it was. It was way beyond what he thought was happening.
Right.
But we
He
would
he
not have that if he hadn't have started recording as soon as he got out of his vehicle.
Yeah. That's great stuff. I mean, it's just easy to forget, but if you just get in the habit of it, it's great
Record.
advice. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
that easy.
And Michael White's got a question for
Yeah.
you, and this more on the UFO side of things, and then we're gonna have to wrap it up. But Michael says, "I'm curious if you've ever seen one blue with occasional brilliant white flashes, about the size of a golf ball."
Um. So, Michael, are you asking if I've seen just lights associated with Bigfoot or lights in general out there the
This
size of
this
golf
came
balls?
this came in kind of towards the tail end of you talking about your UFO experience.
Blue, occasionally brilliant white flashes about the size of a golf ball. No, I have not. I have seen several lights that size and colors, but not associated with UFO. You,
UDO.
so, as far as like anomalous lights while you're out,
Oh, he said
what's he
UFO.
say?
Sorry.
UFO.
Thanks,
No,
Michael.
I haven't seen that. But I just recently saw. Well, I've got some UFO footage and pictures from my yard here in Puyallup. Actually, I don't really look up at planes much because we live in the flight path of SeaTac and our small airport, which is just a couple miles away.
Okay.
So I don't really look up much anymore. But I did this particular time, and it was an Alaska Airlines prop job, so a prop plane. And behind it, I kept seeing this flash here, and it would flash here, and it flash here. And so it was undulating. And I was seeing this glints, these flashes. So I ran in and got the camera and binoculars, tried to figure out what it was. And the plane's just about to go behind trees. I just got a few pictures. But what I got was it's the same looking thing that Kenneth Arnold saw by Mount Rainier. It's the sort of horseshoe boomerang shape with the red
Okay.
light in it, and it looks you could see the distortion behind it between the wingtips. Um, I got that. Um, we got something on our security camera one night that does not match an aircraft or the flight pattern or the altitude or anything. That
Okay.
was really odd. Um, I got in July. I saw something shiny and spherical in the sky. I asked Kathleen, could she see that? She could see it. We both could tell with our eyes that it was not only just reflective light, but self-illuminating as well. I ran in and got my camera real quick, and I had the short lens on it, but I was able to get some photos, and it is indeed some sort of craft.
Hmm.
It's got structure on the outside. It's got these long things that almost look like the landing skids on a helicopter. These long bars.
Okay.
It's got like these five things on the side that actually detached and went out away from it and then came back. And while I'm filming, a plane is coming and the whole damn thing disappears. It just disappears. So the plane flies by and then it reappears. And I've got it on video doing this. And
Oh
so
man, I
I've
want to see
zoomed
that
in like
video.
800%. I've zoomed in, and you can see the air is different where it is, and then it comes back. So and then it just moved on. Well, not just moved on from my view, but for the rest of the week, it was seen throughout the United States, and several photos were taken and video was taken.
Now,
And
see
I
when you,
compared those to mine, and they're
yeah,
exactly the same.
when you, yeah, when you know or can get access to these other reports
Yeah,
and see what it is, that really that says something,
it
and
does. It
it
validates.
says that you didn't just see it and it was a personal experience that you had, or you and Kathleen, or it's not just something you had. So that's incredible. That's
Well,
pretty
I've been
cool.
analyzing photos and videos for over 20 years, and they used to be sent to me from all over the world. People wanting me to do what I do on them.
Yeah.
Get to the bottom of it. And I at some point I just started turning people away because it was just too time consuming.
Yeah.
So I hand pick stuff now, but I don't analyze my stuff, then push it forward. I analyze my stuff for me, and if somebody else wants to analyze my stuff, they get the raw original uh,
Right.
file,
Right.
because I won't push it forward
Yeah.
on my own. I just won't do it.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
could be a question about integrity there, and I'm 100% on integrity, so I'm not even going to create a
Right.
situation. So,
Sure. That's great. No, more of that should be happening out there. Um, gosh, I mean, what a really cool experience.
I
All the
wanted
experiences you've
I
had.
wanted to talk about the Walker Ames house.
Ooh, well, all right. Let's wrap it up in five
Okay,
minutes then.
let's do it real quick then. So I was there after one of the conferences,
Uh-huh.
and doing the investigations, right?
Yep.
Well, I
Yep.
waited till everybody was out of the basement, and I started walking down there, and I got about 3 steps from the bottom, and somebody walked away from the steps. So I said, "Oh, sorry, I thought everybody was out of here." And I started to go back up, and everybody upstairs says, "There's nobody down. We're all up here." So I went back down there, and I said, "Hey, I heard you down here." And I just started talking. I went over to the dumbwaiter.
Mm-hmm.
So the dumbwaiter is right behind me, and they got the sewer pipe that's right in front.
Yep.
So I was standing between the two, and I put my audio recorder on the pipe. Well, I'm just standing there, and I introduce myself like I always do, ask if there's anybody who wants to come visit me,
Mm-hmm.
and out of the blue, like 6 inches of a lightsaber just appear from the corner, and they start coming towards me, and it's just a little bit off the floor. It's illuminating the floor. It's really a chunk this big, and it totally looks like a lightsaber. And so as I'm talking about it to the audio recorder, and it's coming under the pipe, and just as it gets under the pipe and it's coming out from under the pipe, it's going right between my feet, and I try to grasp it, and it just goes gone.
Just gone.
So I stand there for a second, I process everything that just happened, and I immediately went upstairs and said, "Hey, I need a volunteer to come with me downstairs. I had something happen. I want to see if it happens again. I want somebody with me." So everybody jumped up. I only needed one person. So I bring this gal down, and I don't tell her anything. Nothing. I just say, "I just want you to hang out here and see what happens. And then if nothing happens, I'll explain." So nothing happened. And so then I had a whole bunch of people. We were running lights outside. We looked at the cars
Sure.
outside.
Yep.
That wall at the time going up the stairs, there was some of the lath was exposed. So if you
Yep.
had a cell phone or something going, light could come through both sides of the wall
Right.
and go down and move along the floor. I know that's not what it was, but for the sake of explaining everything, I want to
Right.
go through all of the possibilities.
Looking for other causations.
Yes, exactly. And could not find anything that matched it. The intensity, the size, it was off the ground. It was off the floor. It was clearly off the floor, and that was pretty cool. The first time I ever stood in front of that dumbwaiter, I was talked to, and I talked back, and it was dark, and it was the first time ever in the house, and so this guy's talking to me, and I start talking back, and everybody's like, "What?" They're all out in front of me, and I was like, "Oh, I was just talking to." Well, there's nobody back there. I didn't know there was a dumbwaiter there. It was completely dark. I didn't know where I was in that house. So, but I'm talking to somebody that's not there. It
Yeah.
was pretty cool. I always have experiences at that house.
Yeah. Me
I
too.
saw the little girl come down the stairs and she stopped. And I told Jill Thompson, I was like, there's one of the kids is right there. And I was like, "Come down here." And she said, "No, they won't come down here. They're not coming down all the way."
Yeah.
I kept trying to talk her into it, and finally she just dissipated.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was pretty wild.
There was two guys after this was a few years ago. And I think it was just after a ghost walk or, a couple of people hanging around taking photos, and the lights were out in the main foyer looking at the main staircase there. And it's kind of that there's like an upper section of stairs and then it turns and then that's the longer section down to the big landing.
Yes.
And so this was kind of in front of that stained glass. Well, I guess somebody was taking pictures and one of the guys happened to be looking at the stairs and it was dark. Well, somebody took a picture elsewhere in the room and so the flash went off and it lit up and this guy freaked out because he saw a kid looking through the stair banisters when the flash went off.
Awesome.
And then of course they shine their flashlights over there and there's nothing there.
Right. Awesome.
So, yeah, it's what
Well,
an interesting place.
I was in the attic once and had balls set out there and the toys, and it's in the dark, and I'm talking about I have kids, and I play with them and stuff, and so and all of a sudden something touches my hair, and I'm like, "Oh, I got touched, cool," and I'm doing it some more, and I got touched again. I'm like, "Cool,"
Yeah.
I turn on the light, it's a bat.
Ah.
It's a bat.
Yeah, that bat's gotten me in the attic too. Yeah, that
Give it a
I've
name.
only, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people get touched in the house, or they, claim
I
that
have
they've been
felt that in
touched.
other places, but this particular time,
Yeah, I
it was
never
the bat.
have. The only
Well,
place I feel like,
the one night you were doing a walkthrough of Facebook Live on a second floor. I mean, you were clearly being followed, and I was like, "Just turn around. She's standing right there," and I wasn't the only one who picked up on that night.
I remember that, and I was in the master bedroom, and I was asking if there's anybody who worked in the household, if they were there, and I heard in my earbuds, I heard "no way," and it was like a whisper, more of a female type, and so then I asked, "Hey, did anybody else hear that?"
Like,
And
right,
then
just right
I
there,
think
face to
you or
face.
somebody said, yeah, go in this room, go up ahead. So I went into this room and said, okay, well, how's it going? And I did kind of a hard pan, kind of a 180, and I didn't hear anything. But some people commented they were seeing some sort of mist or something just prior to me entering that room. But when I did go back and check out that part, after it was posted, there was a man on there when I said, okay, so how's it going? And then when I was doing that hard pan, you hear this kind of kind of like a grumpy old man
Awesome.
sort of sound. But the only place I've ever feel like I've had the experience of being touched by a spirit was down in Oregon, Wheeler, Oregon.
Oh,
And it was ice cold, wrapped around my waist. It was like a hug,
weird.
basically. I was asking if I could give this person a hug, and I felt a little bit of pressure push me back, and then just ice cold, like I just went to the dentist office and got shot with Novocaine around my waist, just that
Wow,
ice
weird.
cold. But never been touched at the Walker Ames
Interesting.
house, so, and I'm cool not being touched. um
Oh, it's
unless
been every time there's been something going on. It's pretty wild.
Yeah,
Well, the whole town. I mean, there's other locations. I
yep,
just had if you haven't been there, people, you gotta swing by and check
yep.
it out. It's
Little
just
Port
really
Gamble.
cool.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
cool. Cool town, cool goings on, and just a lot of history and fun.
yeah, yeah. Well, if
A lot of
people are
fun.
interested, I'll just plug that. Go to
There you go.
portgambleparanormal.com. Nice segue, Mike. Checks in the mail. um
There you go. I know we didn't even talk about remote viewing or any of that
yeah,
stuff,
well,
so
I'm
you
gonna
have
make
to
you
have me
get
back on.
in front of the camera again.
Yeah, I
So,
bet.
but thanks for taking the time. Great
Yeah,
conversation, amazing experiences, and it sounds like to me, some of the big things you've learned over the years is having an open mind and
yeah.
setting your intent and being respectful
Document
and
and
document.
respect the document.
Yeah.
And
So great advice for anybody out
pass
there.
pass along the things that you know. If you take them with you, you've wasted them.
Yeah.
So you always want to pass along your knowledge to those that are interested in listening.
Yeah.
Those that
That,
aren't, they're missing out.
yeah, exactly. No, that's great advice. And you're my last guest for the year. So
Hey,
that's pretty
well, depending.
cool. That's pretty cool. And I want to take a moment to thank all of my guests for this whole year for coming on the show. I feel like there's still many more Bigfoot experiences too to
Yes.
talk about.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did Dave have a question?
He said that he saw blue lights like what Michael was seeing on Harstein Island.
Yeah, we didn't even get into talking about like Mount Adams lights and stuff. So yeah, do have me back on again because
Oh, we will.
your viewers going to want to hear that. That is such a cool experience. It's a life changing experience. And who would have thought that some little tiny lights could just blow your mind like that? But
Yeah.
there was a whole group of us, mixed
Yeah.
mixed walks of life, all kinds of different professions, to include law enforcement and stuff. And
Yeah.
people are just like, "What did I just see?"
Oh, mate. Well,
Pretty wild. We got to talk about it sometime.
that's the field of the paranormal. It's the mysterious. It's
Yeah, yeah.
we all, like you said before, we're all wanting to unlock those mysteries and find out more. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just the paranormal for you. You can have just life changing. I mean, I've had life changing experiences, and we all have.
You know,
Those of
this
us that are searching.
this whole journey, like I said, it's been great. It's been I've met some wonderful people that turned
Yeah.
out to be family, lifelong friends and family,
Yeah.
and I've met some real turds along the way too. But that happens in all the
Yeah.
fields. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's so refreshing to be part of a community of like-minded people where you're
Yeah.
not going to be laughed at or pointed at or whispered
Yeah.
about, that you
Yep.
can just be yourself and not feel bad about sharing, not be afraid to share.
Exactly.
So so I appreciate you having this platform for people to come on and pass along their knowledge and their experiences. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Michael. Michael White turds.
Yeah. Oh
Well, and
well.
so big thanks to all my guests throughout the year, especially Michael White,
Yeah.
but
Oh boy.
each and
I'm not
everyone
eating
who's
popcorn with chopsticks. Where's my popcorn?
yeah, Michael. But big thanks to everybody because this is what what I want the show to be about is to open some minds and hopefully people can learn something and take away something
Yes.
from each show or go, hey, wow, I had that experience too. And so it's an honor to do this show and thank you for being my final guest of the year, and we're going to come back in 2022 rip roaring, ready to go with all kinds of great content. So I can't wait for that. What's up?
You know why I offered to be a producer for you?
Uh-oh.
Because of your integrity, first
Well,
of
thank
all,
you.
and because of your platform. Because I believe in what you're doing. You're bringing people on to share information and knowledge and experiences, and though there are lots of other platforms out there like this,
Yeah.
um, not all of them flow like yours do. Not all of them are comfortable like yours. And I just think all around it's a really good show. So I want to do my part, do what I can to keep the show alive and keep it going strong and just build on what you've already started
Yeah.
and do this journey together with you. It's been fun so far.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I can't wait to see where this goes. And again, and thanks to everybody who listens each week and
Yes.
downloads. If you don't catch us live, that's cool. You can get the next day. You can go on Amazon Music, you can or Audible or Apple Music or
I
Google
was
Podcast
surprised.
or
Yeah, it's everywhere.
yeah, it's everywhere. And Jody, thanks for being a
Thank you.
great friend of the show too. But it's this is what it's all about is teaching people and opening
Yeah.
some minds and maybe helping some people along the way, which is always a bonus. Here, well said, Michael, from Michael White.
Yeah, I mean,
um
because listening to these experiences, I mean, sometimes there's a connection. It's like, oh, I'm not
yeah,
the only one,
that's what I had. Yeah,
oh, that makes sense because this happened to me, and I didn't
right,
think about that.
right.
So that's what I said. This is a great platform
Yeah,
for
well, and
sure.
I'm looking to just build it, and big thanks to Todd Bates, in the
Yes,
station and all that he does, all the blood, sweat and tears he puts into this
it takes
too.
a
So
lot to do these things.
yeah,
It
so
really does.
it's a team effort, and I'm happy to have the show and be able to give that to people, and
I just took on another one of these too, not paranormal, but
yeah,
another. So
there's a lot that goes into it for
it's
sure.
a lot of work.
Yeah,
Unsung heroes, the behind the
yeah.
scenes guys that make it all happen.
Exactly, exactly. Well, it's been such a fun year, and I think next year is going to be even better. So I hope you'll stay tuned with us on WLTK-DB.com and the Paranormal Pete Show and all the other shows on the station too. There's great
Yeah,
content
good
out
stuff.
there. So check out all the other shows, and I'm taking my Christmas break early, so I will not be having my next show will be January 4th, Tuesday, January 4th, of course, 8 p.m. Pacific time at WLTKDB.com and all the cool places you can stream at. And I hope you'll check out my Facebook page. And if you haven't liked or followed it yet, just Facebook.com/Paranormal Pete Show, and you'll see who my upcoming guests are and and you'll be able to keep in touch and stay in tune with what's going on with this show. But Michael, I'll finish this show like I do every other show with a toast. The past is history, the future's a mystery, but today is a gift because it's the present. And always trying to remind people to take a minute each day to be present, be in the, look at what you've got, take, be there in the moment wherever you're at. If you're at work, if you're at home, whatever it might be, just be there. Hug the ones you're with, especially with the holidays. Happy holidays to everybody, but hug everyone else virtually for a while longer and stay safe out there. And Mike, we'll see you next year.
Yes, definitely. Oh,
All
before
right.
we go, I'd
Yeah.
like to add you can find this mug and this shirt and many more like them at the Elusive Hair.
All
That's right.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good
Yep.
quality stuff.
Yeah, and get some of the cryptid crew stuff. Yeah,
Hey,
so
Pete,
everyone, yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mike. And thanks to everybody out there. This was a fun evening. We got one more from Michael White. Great show. Good night, all. Well, good night,
Good
everybody
night.
out there. Happy holidays. Be well, be safe out there. And we'll see you next year. Right on.
Take care.